Great to see you, man. It's been a couple years, I think.
It
Um,
happened.
yeah, I was looking back. I think we met like 7 years ago in LA. We were randomly introduced by someone.
I don't remember how we met, to be honest, but I'm sure it was
Okay.
LA for sure.
I think we were randomly introduced. I actually can't remember who introduced us, but it was someone I knew peripherally. I think maybe I'll remember later, or that person will be mad when they listen to this. But um, and I don't know if you knew the context of what was going on for me, but I had just left One Taste. You know,
Uh,
a lot of positive and negatives. That's where I learned how to feel and the importance of feeling. And before that, I was in the pickup world, which was kind of the opposite. So it was very interesting for me to meet you back then because you kind of combined those two things. It was like feeling based seduction. I don't know if you call it that, but like it's like, oh, cool. It's like actually just hanging out with you and helping out your workshops and stuff kind of helped me like reemerge into reality because it was combining the two worlds I was from. So anyway, just reminiscing a little.
nice. Yeah, that's basically what I did. I started out in pickup myself, and then I ran into a teacher who taught feeling and embodiment and being and feeling. Where you really learn to feel all your emotions, and then of course the next step is learning to feel your emotions in a positive way. But And then as I started to work with him, I realized, what am I doing with this pickup stuff? It's all heady. It's all like, think about what to
Mm-hmm.
say. Just all that BS that nobody wants to do. And it's just stressful anyways. And he started teaching me how to do movement, not for the purpose of physical health or getting like strong a body. That a lot of people do that. That's like Ido Portal, guys like that. The movement we did was for embodiment, for emotional embodiment, energetic embodiment, learning to feel more of the heart, learning to feel more of the gut, learning to feel more of the turn on. And then when you're feeling that stuff, that's how you communicate with people. You talk to a woman, you let her into your heart, you feel her heart, and people think it's woo, but it's not woo. They study this stuff. Entrainment, is a scientific study of how it affects each other through the mirror neurons or the gut brain and how it processes so much on an instinctual level. So when you're letting the feelings that a woman is giving you, like she's connecting, whether it's a relationship, wife, and you're letting her in and she's affecting your heart and she can see that she's reaching your heart, not needy, just like I can feel your emotions, I can feel your sadness, your joy, and then it hits your gut, you get gut instincts about how to respond. You're not in your head anymore. You're just like,
Yeah.
and you take it further, you take it into, I can't tell you how many marriages I would get women saying, oh, it saved my marriage, stuff like that. And when that started to happen, I was like, wow, that's where it's at. It's not just on picking up a girl, but it's on having real quality depth of connection with human beings. What doesn't matter what industry you're in.
Yeah, I mean that was one of the big light bulbs for me. Is that it's not for moral reasons. It's that pickup was an engineer's approach to human interaction, which is just like it's like trying to hear color. It's the wrong sense. It's like the wrong mechanism for the process. It's just so much more work. Forget about the moral implications. It's just like you're creating so much more work. And I think even when I was having the most success under a pickup mindset, it was when I was the most anxious by far.
Yeah, yeah. Anxiety is so huge with the pickup guys, and I would see it all the time because they're processing so much up here, which means they're holding all this energy up here, and they're not feeling what we call the center pillar. They're not feeling their gut, their heart, all that stuff. And then what happens, you see this all the time, that people, and some of you that are listening to this, watching this will notice if you have a lot of anxieties, one of the places it stores is in the jaw. This is why people are constantly grinding, tightening, and you can see it on these guys. Like they'll go out to talk to a woman. They're, hey, how you doing? What's your name? My name's Brian. There's no relationship to their body, and then they start pushing. And when you see a group of them come into a room, like I'd be in a room or a big group of pickup guys would come to. I was at a workshop once where they came in an entourage, and the anxiety of the room goes like this. Everybody's more anxious.
Hmm.
When you feel it go back down and it crashes back down and everybody starts to relax. Or you'd see it in a bar. I'd seen it in a bar when a big group comes in, anxiety of the whole bar, girls go on defense, they leave, all the anxiety would go back down. And
Yeah.
it used to make me laugh. And because I was one of those guys. In the beginning, I was one of those guys, and filled with pain and anxiety, filled with it. So
Yeah.
feeling is,
Another place people store tension is their anus. People don't realize. I think I shared that when I spoke at your thing in Miami, and a lot of guys were like, oh, I'm just clenching my butt right now, like sitting in this chair. It's like this big aha for a lot of people.
You can't ground at all. Like grounding is really important for being able to deal with tension, being able to deal with somebody coming at you or emotion, positive or negative. Like if she comes at you with a lot of love, you want to ground and just let that in. If she comes at you with a lot of anger, you want to be able to receive that, ground it. And if your anus is tight, you can't feel down the back of your legs. You can't feel the ground, and then you can't receive it because you actually receive energy from the ground. I don't know if you ever do earthing, but all the electrons
Mm-hmm.
up your body and all that, and you're blocking all that flow up your body too. And
Yeah. You're also
yeah,
cutting off circulation to your sexual organs with
yeah,
your tight butt all day.
yeah. And then you're trying to talk to a girl and turn her on, but you have no turn on. You have no access
Right.
to your cock and balls, if you guys don't mind me saying that. But yeah, you have no access to that.
Yeah, one thing actually, this this is super random, but I've been doing horse training recently. I've been learning how to ride horses.
Nice.
Totally random thing, but it's funny. Since they can't think, you can't talk to a horse, but they actually feel the same emotions as humans, but way more. Like they can feel you and smell you from far away. It's like, oh, this would have been great as a teenager to learn how to ride horses because like a horse can feel if you're not breathing. A horse can feel if your butt is tight. You can feel if you're in your head, it gets like antsy, which is basically what happens with women beneath the neocortex, right? It's like the same kinds of things that most of us don't pay attention to. Horses are just that. And I'm like, I don't know if there's anything that is like reteaching me to be dominant and compassionate at the same time than spending time with horses, as like silly as it is.
I think it's because horses feel so much. They're so responsive. They talk about the horse whisperer and all that stuff, and they know when a guy is feeling anger, and they're not going to be a human being. And women, especially women in dating or relationships, are the same way because relationships are so primal on an emotional level. I mean, business deal is a little different. There's still emotions being transferred, but when you get into I'm going to connect with you emotionally. That's what a whole relationship is about. If you're not going to connect with somebody emotionally, why have a relationship? Why have sex with them? Do you think that somebody wants to have sex with you because you're logical? No. So I think that's beautiful. I met this one woman that was absolutely amazing in Romania, and her English was terrible. And we spent the whole time, doing a little bit of translate, but most of it was just exchanging emotions and feelings and exploring that together. Maybe one word here, one word there, and I think it was fantastic. I loved every second of it. And I think I think that we have too much language. Maybe we should have less, so we're forced to connect and really feel each other and relate to each other.
Totally. Yeah, it's hard with the way technology advances. I mean, this is a trite thing to say, but since especially Gen Z, they're learning how to communicate through electronic message, whereas that is like supposed to be what 7% of communication for younger people who are learning how to date through Tinder. Like that's their first and maybe formative experience with dating. That becomes all of it, and then they don't really. It's like a foreign language to explain anything nonverbal.
Yeah, the world is filled with anxiety and fear right now. And I think that has a lot to do with what you were just talking about. We're spending all our time doing this. Nobody's learning to relate anymore. Nobody's learning to connect anymore. And I see it all across the board in all forms of connection because everything is being like you go to a restaurant now and that there's tons of kiosks. You don't even have to talk to a human if you don't want to. And I think that's to our detriment. It's really to our detriment. Um, and it's huge because this embodiment doesn't just affect your relationships. It affects your how much income you make. It affects how much your health of your body. As I've gotten more embodied, I can't tell you how many things I've healed in my body. The list is enormous. I had so many gut issues, bladder issues. I had irritable bowel of the bladder called interstitial cystitis. I had gut issues. At one time, I had blood in my throat and blood in my urine. I went through a lot, and I was all disembodiment. It was all disconnection from my body, stuck in my head. My teacher used to say, "You're so in your head, Brian. You're above your head." And as I had to come down through that, a lot of that started healing, and it was amazing to watch the depth of feeling that starts to happen in the body and how that changes your relationship to everything. And then that also my money reality changed. So I think that the world we're creating right now, the metaverse, all that is just more disconnection. It's going to put us more here, more here, more here. And I I look forward to the day we all rebel against it. I think we all say, "I've had enough. I'm going to go out and play. I'm going to go out and see the sun. You're going to go out and see the, get dirty and like you're living. You got your kids outside. That type of stuff.
Yeah.
It's already,
Yeah,
I see it.
actually, one hopeful thing I have about the age of AI is that when deep fakes become so prolific that everyone just by default doesn't trust what they see on a screen, that's when everyone's going to go back to reading real books and spending time with real people.
Yeah, I agree with.
If the AI doesn't kill us all, like assuming we can like get away from that reality, I think we're all gonna like basically by choice, what's the word? Regress technologically.
Yeah. I agree. I was watching this woman the other day. She has a YouTube channel. I wish I could promote her YouTube channel a little bit, but she's like high powered lawyer. I'm gonna go kill it, and she burned out. She was making all this money, but spending it. She didn't even save any. Then she said one day I couldn't take it anymore. And I said, I want to retire. She was 30 some years old. It took her 2 years to retire. And how she did it, first she moved to Vietnam, built a couple little businesses, and then saved up enough money to make it a passive income stream of $2,500 a month. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And then she went to Bali, and her and her husband live in Bali, completely retired on a passive income stream that brings in like 2,500 a month. She was showing her bills. She spends about $1,500 a month, puts 1,000 into savings. And I'm like, then they're on the beach surfing and they're out, they're riding their scooters everywhere. They're painting, they're singing, learning to play music. And I'm like, that's what life is meant to be. That's what life's meant to be, whether it's in Bali or somewhere else. I think we're all doing way too much.
Yeah, we were voice noting about this the other day, and I was sharing how recently I realized I need to only do one thing a day. And you said you had some thoughts on it, which I'd be, because it's like a new thing. Ever since having a kid, I felt like I need to be working more. But now, whereas as a bachelor, I only worked a few hours a day because I lived pretty minimalistically. But now I have a kid, and I'm like, and I realize like I did it backwards. Like I'm working way more now that I have actually someone who wants my time. It's just really ridiculous. So it's taken a little bit of trust, but I just decided I'm only going to do one like important thing a day work wise, and then I'll have free time for all the other important things.
So is it one important thing a day and then a few little tasks that need to get done here and there? Or is it?
I'm trying to, I don't like little tasks. So I try to avoid all little things. Like today, I'm just having a couple podcast conversations. Like that was my thing. Um, I'm going to see, this is like 3 weeks in of me experimenting with this. I do feel like this dread of a backlog of things to do building up. But the goal ultimately is to, spend a lot of time in real life and very little time
Yeah. I think
online.
to do that, you have to design your life. You have to design your life so you can do that. Lots of systems, you know, um, and then like she did, she changed her whole reality and built her reality around that idea of what she wanted to create. And that was all about slowing down and connecting. So I love the idea. I don't know if I could just do one thing a day. Maybe I'd have to do two or something like that, a couple things. But my thought is when you said it was I love the idea because I was a notorious overworker and pushing too hard to try to get ahead and thinking I got to build a new business right away. And all of that comes from, like, if you look at it from an energetic letting go, like I believe in letting go of all this stored trauma we have in our body. And there's only a few core real things that we're chasing. One is the want for control. One is the want for approval. One is the want for love. And approval and love are slightly different, but some people put them together. And then below that, at the core, is the want for security, and then below that is the want for separation. And if you look at those core things, uh, the want for security, control, and love, all of them really, but that want for security is so strong. So many people are afraid if I don't constantly work, I'm going to run out of money. I'm going to run out of food. I'm going to die. I'm going to, and it's a feeling. It's literally a feeling in the body that as you learn to feel it more and more and learn to let it go and learn to process that feeling and start to feel the sense of security, it's amazing how you start to see new options. Like the more I feel that feeling, the more I'll create that reality. But the more I start to believe that the universe, life, God, takes care of me and loves me, and I've always got it covered. The more I'll find resources, ways to make it happen. It's like the reticular activating system. It's a part of the brain that sees a possibility, starts to focus on how to make your goals happen. But when you're in fear, that reticular activating system focuses on what you're afraid of and starts seeing that in the world. Whatever you're thinking about, it's constantly sorting to prove that reality exists in the world. And let's say I have a ton of fear about doing that. Like I'm not going to survive. I'm not going to get ahead. I'm letting in all this information, and then the gut brain, that part of it's way more powerful than this brain, and it's instinctually going to give you hits that match your insecurity. You're going to get hits to go do X, and then it's going to be wrong. Your instincts are going to steer you towards your fear because your dominant emotion is fear. When your dominant emotion becomes the sense that I have an internal security, I'm always taken care of, that I'm loved, then your instincts will steer you towards that they'll never steer you wrong. They'll steer you right where you want to go, and it'll use the reticular activating system to prove it in the world and build more security. It's kind of wild when you think about how the body is built. When we get in our heads, we screw that whole mechanism up. There's no relationship with the gut.
Yeah.
There's emotional range. It's all jacked up. So.
Yeah, you're one of the few people who I feel like I can hear talk about manifestation where it's not cringe. It's like oh yeah, that totally makes sense to me. Yeah, it's like so clear. Because actually, something I thought about recently, the last couple of weeks, a lot of has been churning in me was if I'm going to work less, I need to kind of challenge my faith because it doesn't make sense to my logical mind. So the only thing I can do is really focus on what I want rather than focus on all the things that will go wrong. And we'll see what happens, honestly, because it still doesn't make sense to my mind how I could work half time and do better,
Well, if you have a worry about it, it might get messy for a bit, right? And then as it gets messy and you start figuring out systems and more systems and more systems, use the 80-20 rule to figure out more systems. And then eventually it'll start to make sense. But in the middle, in the transmutation, like from a caterpillar to a butterfly, that cocoon stage is messy. That's where if you open a cocoon, it's just goo. The caterpillar turns into pure goo and then is reborn as a butterfly somehow, magically. Law of transmutation is a natural law, right? And you see it everywhere. Nothing's ever destroyed. It just has to change form and evolve into a more efficient form. And that's what we're doing all through our life as humans. From your daughter, she's not very efficient yet. So you got to be there 24 hours a day to take care of her, to be there for her, to love her. But as she gets older and she gets really good parenting, grounding, containing, she learns to feel her body, learns to risk management from you, and she learns how to, really assess things. She should build really good systems, and eventually she can separate and go off and work those systems, and then spend the rest of her life developing better systems. You see what I mean? And that's what life's really about. And Tim Ferriss was the 4-hour work week. It's all about this idea, and unfortunately, most of us we just get to a certain level of growth with that, after college or whatever, or high school or whatever. And we just kind of flounder along. And we stay the same most of our lives. The people listening to this podcast, of course, are growers, right? Like yourself. We're all here to grow. We're all here to change, to grow, to become the best versions of ourselves. And that's why people come to this. But so many people don't. They got their house, they got their beer, they got their whatever, their pot, they're going to numb themselves out.
Yeah. I mean, it takes a lot of energy to grow. It takes a lot of energy to go back in the cocoon kind of thing. It's just kind of easier to be whatever shape you're in.
Growth can be very painful. If you grew up in a really painful household and you had no connection as a child, some people that have really good memories as a child. Looks like your daughter's going to have amazing memories. But people who have a really dark past, I grew up in a very dark past, right? Bipolar mother, sociopathic stepfather, career criminal. There was no love. My earliest memories, there's no love in the house. Everybody's separate. And so when I go through those memories, those darkest memories, as I process it, those deep emotions, it gets dark, sometimes. But that's largely where all the growth comes from. When I let all that darkness go and I stop making it good or bad and it starts to process, my heart opens more, and then I can let more love in, more joy in. And that's been my journey, probably because I had such a painful childhood, probably because I didn't see any other option other than maybe numbing myself out my whole life with pot or antidepressants or something like that. And I didn't want to do that. It teaches you to deal with a lot too. Like for those that don't know, like this last few months have been really rough on me, right? Really rough. And my mother was passing away, and I was driving from Montana to Idaho, and I was sitting with her every night for an hour until she finally passed. And then I was just constantly there, going to go back and forth really quick. My brother passed away, and my father's wife passed away, and he's been upset. My father, my uncle, my other, I didn't know him very well, but my father's brother passed away. So we had all these deaths in the family, and everybody's grieving over this stuff. It's just coming in like crazy. And then I decided to move to Idaho to be with my mom because I thought it was going to be 6 months or 9 months before she passed while she's in hospice. Halfway through the move, she passes. So now I'm halfway moved between two worlds. Starting the new energetic. And then I started the new business, right? And it was hilarious. I started this new business. I say it's hilarious, but right after I started it, and this is right before all this started, I had gone skiing and and I had an AC separation, so my whole arm was in a sling. And then my business, the business partner, the person I was going to be building the business with, leaves, and so I got no the right arm. I'm a rough right-handed person. I'm trying to fix all the problems in the business, and I other stuff that happens. And I said, now the universe is teaching me how to stay present. And now I'm learning. God's teaching me how to stay present, whatever you want to say. And I'm not going to let this take me out. And I'll tell you, it opened my heart a lot. And it was a powerful experience. And the experience I had with my mother was incredible. So I'll come back to that later. But I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, you know, I mean, when things like this, or like periods of life where like everything seems to be going wrong, do you make any kind of meaning out of this?
You want to, yeah. And there's always okay. There's always an equal or greater growth out of everything. Nothing, anything that gets destroyed has the ability to become equal or greater, unless you resist it. If you resist it, numb out to it, shut off to it, don't stay conscious to the process and constantly let go of everything, then you don't get the reward on the other side. And I've seen that in my life every time. Every time something's gone down, I work at it, clean it up, and then I come back bigger than ever before. Okay,
Mhm.
so that's number one. So in this, to me, the meaning was as I went through all this, like the big one that was as I was forced to relax and slow down, get more present because I didn't have I only had a left arm, and then I had to start driving out to Idaho to be with my mom. And I said, okay, my mom's bipolar. She's probably borderline. She's been through all this stuff in all her life. She's been resistant to love, and I've never had a real relationship with her. My sisters haven't had a real relationship with her. But now she's in the hospital dying, and she's terrified, and she's on all these oxycodone, oxymorphine. And so I just started sitting with her every night. And my goal was to help this woman because I knew the goal is not just to help her, but the whole family, this beautiful, this being, feel love before she died. And so I would sit there and tell her, you know what, you're loved. Everybody likes you. And she'd fight it. And because she was on medication, so she wasn't thinking clearly. And I'd say, yeah, because the nurses would come and say, your mom's so cute. And I'd say, the nurses think you're so cute. They want to take you home, because you're so sweet. She's like, no, no. And she'd fight it. And then it was amazing. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just kind of making this up. And I would sit there, hold her hand, ground my body, tell her I loved her, put on really good music she liked. She really liked Christian music. And I just kept saying this stuff. And probably within a month of doing that, 3 weeks or so, 4 weeks, she started getting better and she started getting clearer. And then I found out from the nurses, she weaned herself off the oxycodone and morphine because it was by choice. She could take it. And she started saying, I didn't want it anymore. She always wanted her painkillers. And then when she came clear, this loving human being that showed up was absolutely freaking incredible. I had never had this mother in my life. And, and it was a healing experience for me. And then I got my sister doing it. I got my niece doing it. And we got to experience this incredibly loving mom before she died. And, I think the arm slowed me down to do that. I think all of that happening was a huge reward. And it was what the family. Now, the family, my sisters and me, are becoming tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter, and that's what's on the other side of that. And it's really made me question why I ever pushed so hard to get anything when it's all about love.
Mm,
You know, it's all about
that's
who you
beautiful.
end of your life. I believe that it's all about love. You know, I don't know if you. I'm going to go little crazier now. I'm going to go a little woo woo on you. I don't know if you ever studied near death experiences. They fascinate me. You know, I've watched tons. I've watched so many of them. They fascinate me. And I found out that pretty much every near death researcher that tries to prove they're not true, I think every one that I've found so far, ends up becoming a believer in life after death. One of the things that they always say in the near death experiences every time is that when you die, um, the only question that's ever really asked is how much love did you create in the world? And everybody's like, you know, it's not about your accolades, it's not about what you did, it's how much love you spread in the world. And I think that's powerful when you think about it. And whether you believe in it or not, it's what does it matter if I have $1 billion in the bank if I don't have an open heart, embodied heart, feeling the ground, feeling the earth beneath me, and I got love in my life, you know. And we're here to enjoy life, not to spend our life suffering, you know. And I can see so many people got all this money, got all this success, and they're just suffering. they, and uh, and so that's why I really admired this woman that went to Bali. You know, she's like, screw
Yeah,
it.
it's really a beautiful question. Actually, thank you for sharing all of that. It was really touching, and
Thank you.
just the question as like a guiding statement, like almost like the "What would Jesus do?" But like, how much love am I creating in the world? Like with every decision, actually.
Yeah,
Uh, because today I was actually thinking, we're thinking about leaving Mexico. We're not sure. We'd be going back and forth with the pros and cons list. But like an hour ago, I was thinking I would love to go on a really long RV trip with my family, but it's so much more expensive than what we're used to living on. Like, and we wouldn't have a nanny and all these things, all these comforts. But I'm like, that would be a cool experience, even though it would probably be very annoying at times and like very inconvenient. I don't know. This is maybe inspiring. Maybe next time you see me, I'll be on an RV trip. I'll visit you in Bozeman or something.
I've seen people do it. You know, the RV trip or the sailboat. I've seen that one where a family travels around the world
Mm-hmm.
and homeschools a kid. The other one is this guy lives the mountain life, that mountain life on Instagram, and he has his two
Hmm.
sons and daughter. He skis like they ski like 60 some days. They're homeschooled, they ski, and he teaches them all the lessons on the mountain, and then they mountain bike all summer. And he says kids are meant to be outdoors. We're meant to teach them risk
Totally.
humanity. And he just every little video is so inspiring of his kids taking risks, learning to live life, learning to fall down, learning to get back up, and then having he has such a beautiful family. That's to me is amazing. So
That's more of a long term goal. Like I really want to have a horse farm and like raise alpaca and chickens and like have all the kids around and like not move around so much. I've been moving around so much for the last many years. I guess you probably have too. Um, yeah. So you've kind of fallen into a cocoon yourself these last months,
yeah, yeah,
maybe not by choice. I don't know if it was before we started recording or not, but you were saying something about creating a new life. Like,
yeah.
what's that
Well,
going to
I
be for you?
well I have this beautiful home. I bought this home on a whim. I drove to Bozeman, fell in love with Bozeman, bought this home. It's gone up in value quite a bit. I can get a good rent for it. So that's the first step. Get out of this house. I love the house, but first just get around family and be around family and build those the tighter bonds with family than I've ever had before, especially after my mother passed. Um, I do love skiing, so I want to be near snow in the winter typically, and on a mountain every day of the week if I could, because it's freaking awesome to me. Surfing would probably be the same way. Um, I'm looking to find just the right woman. I've got a woman in mind. Um, that I can build that life like what you're doing, basically. I'm looking to build this life of love with my family, with this woman, where we find a spot. Maybe it's Bali for a while. Maybe it's maybe we come back here eventually. But the idea is to build like when I look at that one Instagram I told you about, that's kind of the model. This life where, whether I adopt children or have children, because I'm not as young as other people, I build a life of a house full of love with the animals, with
Mm.
the children, and leave a legacy behind of love more than money. I do want enough money to be able to pay the bills and all that stuff, and if I make a lot more money, that's great. But it's really about that legacy, and I see you doing it. It seems like you're moving in the right direction. It's fantastic, and yeah, and I'm working out where it's going to be and what it's going to be like. But that realization really hit me with this last transition in my life, and it's still in process. It's still in process. There's a lot of ambiguity in it, but it's figuring itself out. And then I'm
Yeah.
moving. I'm doing a lot of energetic embodiment myself, releasing more and more of my ego, so I can bring this in more and more of my negative self-talk that's at a deeper level, this real deep core stuff that came from my earliest childhood memories, processing all that, opening the heart more so I can really let this stuff in, because it's great that people can positive think and visualize, and I teach all that, and it's great. You can see your goals and you can manifest them. But if you got tons of resistance in the body and you visualize, you just get in a fight with that resistance. And so the more you clean that out, then as you visualize, the stuff you want comes to you much easier. It comes in faster. But if I don't know, there's a great book by Gay Hendricks called The Upper Limit. No, The Big Leap. It's about the upper limit problem. And my teacher would call and Sedona method or letting go. They'll talk about being capped, but this whole idea that when we start to succeed and we start to get what we want, as we get up there, our deepest core traumas come up and
Mm.
almost always bring people back down. Always. The few, it's really rare that somebody blows through that because the pain of success and getting what you want is so much greater than the pain of being average, the pain of being numbed out, the pain of being alone. And we're used to that pain. But when we bust through that ceiling and suddenly you've got more money, more success, a better business, um, everything starts to, we want to take ourselves out. Suddenly we're just like, oh my God, I got to manage this. I got to show up for this. I'm not good enough. I'm an imposter. I'm a bad person at nature. Anything, there was a micro pain. Let's say, for example, I felt this pain 10%, but I could manage it easily because I push it down, state pump, jump up and down, yell and scream every day, go. Well, when your life just increased, who knows, tenfold, suddenly that micro pain increases exponentially too. And now you're really feeling it. And if I dump all this money in success, I'll be back down here for I'm used to managing. And I think that's super true. I see it all the time in people. They want to take themselves out as they grow. Um, they want to sabotage. They get a great relationship. How do I take it out? You know, it's
Yeah.
scary.
This is interesting because the last year, maybe 2 years, I've been having all of these memories from high school pop up, like these just like almost like mini disappointments, almost like why do I even remember this kind of thing, and
Yeah,
it's been like very strange because I've done so much work on myself and I felt so secure like all across the board. I'm like, why is this happening now? Why why is this happening now? And like I thought I worked through all this a long time ago. I can't even believe that I remember these random memories. um, but I guess, would you say this is me hitting a new
yeah.
ceiling, or is this an opportunity to let go of
Oh, it's always an opportunity.
heaviness?
The reason you experience it could be just simple triggers in your life, things that are reminding you of high school, or things that maybe it's your daughter being born and reminding you of being raised as a child. And so that stuff comes up to be let go of because those are tracks or triggers depending on what language you want to use. If you're becoming more successful in your mind, whatever that means, doesn't have to mean more love and more abundance. Is really what it is. I'm letting in more love, more abundance in any place in your life. That will trigger that stuff too. And so, one of the questions is, how am I holding back love and abundance? And then this stuff comes up. And then the process at that point is, where are you feeling it in the body, and start letting it go a little bit at a time, a little bit more, a little bit more. And there's a process for letting stuff go. And to me, that's a great problem to have, because it's allowing you, once you let all that go, to go to the next level and enjoy it. Because who wants to go to the next level if you can't enjoy it? If you're just going to be worrying about your past all the time, and then yourself back down. Who wants to go up and down? Eventually, you go up and down enough, you just quit, and pain becomes too great. So there's many reasons. The upper limit kind of issue is one, getting in the cap and feeling guilty, feeling ashamed you're more successful than your family, feeling like you don't deserve this love, that she's going to see you're an imposter eventually, so you sabotage and start fights. You project your guilt onto her, or vice versa, or her onto him. Or the other one is there's just something in your life. The fact that you had a daughter is triggering all your memories of school and thinking about that stuff now.
Yeah. But I guess the solution is the same wherever it comes from.
Yeah, you got to look at it and then clean it up, and getting rid of those core upper issues, the core stuff that's one for abundance, it's one for and it is really not abundance, but one for control, one for love, one for self-esteem, one for approval, one for security. These types of things are going to be very powerful, because if you don't want those things, you can just have those things. That's what people don't realize, that wanting something often indicates that you have a feeling you don't have it. You haven't established the feeling of having it yet. So you're wanting it, and you're going to go chase it. Right. And so then you end up chasing it, and it runs away from you. But when you start feeling like you have it already, when you let go of all the wanting and the chasing and the needing and the have to, then you start letting it into your life. And there's almost a sense it comes to you. You ever seen those people that everything just seems to work for them because or you might have an area in your life where you're not have no wanting. You expect it to work. When you go do it, it does. You just know it's going to work. Like, if I go do this, this will work. I've done it a million times, and I have total faith in that. Yeah, I want to go out tonight, but I'm not sure. That's no big deal. Like, I'm going to think about it. Nah, going to let that go. Well, yep, I'm going to take action and move into choice and go out. But if it's like, I want more money and I don't know how to get it, and you keep amplifying that want, you can actually create suffering. I keep wanting, I want a good relationship, and the more I want it, it seems the harder it is to get. That's more suffering. So we stay pump, and push our way there. And then again, that want, like I said earlier, starts to expand, and then the pain expands. And you burn out, you get tired, and you're like, now how do I protect my $1 million? How do I protect it? And then next thing you know, you're worrying about protecting it, which implies to the subconscious mind you're going to lose it. The next thing you know, you lose it, and then you're like, what did I do? And that's that yo-yo.
Yeah, getting into the place where you expect it is interesting. I was just speaking to a guy who's never worked out, and I was like encouraging him to work out, and he was basically saying like, I'm actually okay being fat. I'm like, I don't think you are. I think you're just used to it. And believe me, if you stick with this for a few months, it'll actually feel good to go to the gym. He's like, no, there's no way. It's like, yeah, I mean, for people who like to exercise, if this feels good, you just need to do it enough times till you stop resisting it. You stop processing it as pain, and you'll actually be eager to do it. And then it'll just be normal to be in shape. And I guess that could apply to everything.
Yeah, it does, and I think it does. It does applies to everything. The key is like a lot of people are used to, like, say they're going to go work out, but they, instead of taking it a little bit at a time, and people who have a lot of resistance, they're far down on the emotional scale. They're really low. They're down in apathy, grief, fear around working out. Let's say the lower end of the scale: apathy, grief, fear, lust, anger, pride, courage, acceptance, love, peace. And so they're down at that low end of that emotional scale, and they want to go work out. They're in apathy and grief. Now, if they go push themselves to work out, a lot of times, because they're feeling so much heaviness around the workout, so much resistance, they push really hard and they go, I'm going to hustle, I'm going to go work out. They burn themselves out, and then they quit. And the next time they go to work out, they have that memory of that last time, and then they do it again. They burn, and maybe they do this a bunch of times. Maybe they do it with diet. and it gets tiring after a while, you know. So one of the things I encourage people to do when they're really low on them, so if they're higher on the emotional scale, it's no big deal. I can push, 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 bust through. I'm good at being cocky and prideful, and I'm going to go destroy it, you know, or I'm good at being, you know, using my intensity to, and you have belief in that. That's great. But people that are lower end, they need to almost take it gentle and learn to fall in love with the idea of being a fit guy first before they and start, you know, maybe they go, maybe like I encourage my sister just to, she wants to learn to bodybuild, but she always quits. So just every day do something that builds more of that identity. You know, that's James Clear's work. And, you know, if you lift weights for 2 minutes a day, that's all I want you to do. And then do a few other things that build your that sense that you're getting into exercise, like get on a forum and talk to people, buy some new clothes. And then every night, write in a journal all the things you did that make you feel more like somebody that loves to exercise today. And then tomorrow, do the same thing. The next day, do the same thing. And as the love builds and that sense that, wow, I am kind of somebody that exercises, then increase it a little bit and increase it a little bit. And don't drive it through the roof, because if they got a lot of fear and anxiety and worry, that's going to amplify as they go up. So they got to take it more gentle. You know, the exception to that rule would be as if they were in the military and you had no choice. You know, and they're like, you're getting up, you're going to go.
Yeah, I'm curious about your life transition and how it might relate to your work, because your work has been very broad, but largely focused on dating, right? It's
Yeah.
kind of like the younger, and your lifestyle, as far as I know, not that I know your whole life, but has matched that. Do you find, or do you feel that changing your lifestyle, switching to family life is going to affect your work?
Yeah, it already has. Yeah, I still teach. I get a lot of clients that ask me about dating all the time, but I get clients that come to me because they want to have a better marriage. I get clients that want to have a better relationship. I get clients that come to me because they want to build a business. I have a client right now that's building a nice YouTube channel. I have a client right now that's there are all kinds of stuff, but it all has to do with the emotional management and good embodiment. You know, and I have a client that's, you know, he's working on becoming. He's already a successful voice actor, increasing his voice acting to a high level, to being an A-list celebrity voice actor, you know. So I have clients that work on all these different areas of life, and but we do it through the process of understanding emotions, how to process them, embodiment, and then energetic embodiment. And to me, the number one thing I'm always pushing for everybody is more joy and more happiness, because that makes it easy to do the work. You know, the more they live up in courage, acceptance, love, peace, they live in those top states, the more they can go out and slay their day, you know, and have fun doing it, come back and celebrate it with their wife and have a connection, talk about all the things they did. But if down apathy, grief, and fear, doing all that stuff is a bitch. And so that's what the work's become about. And so on an embodiment level, you know, if I want to go out and really, like, there's so much resistance in our bodies for a lot of people, and how do you get rid of that resistance? How do you let it go? And that's what it really comes down to. And to me, that's playing with that's why the energetics are so important, because all that stuff is stored in the body, and as you get deeper into the body, learn to feel those emotions, those traumas, whether you have to cry them out a little bit or you have to do a little movement and process some deeper feelings and they come out, then your life really begins to change. And I've seen it time and time again. um, and that's the part that makes the work magical. So that's why I wanted to get away from dating, because all this stuff, dating is backwards. There's one thing I want to say about dating. Like, the whole idea of I'm going to teach a guy to pick up girls is backwards. I'm going to teach a guy how to go out and chase the girls and get them, is the implied message. Now you're going to approach 50 million girls today. You're going to get numbers. You're going to do this. And I get the exercise, and the idea of it is sound, in the sense that, yeah, it makes sense. You got to approach girls to get girls, but they're never being taught how to actually let another human being in emotionally, how to, you know, feel a girl and feel her heart and feel her turn on, drop into your turn on with her, how to relate to her, how to stand at Starbucks and just ask a simple question without, and feel really good doing it, so that she feels good, that your emotional state affects her. So instead of picking her up, why not just invite people in? Once you learn to let people in and have good conversations, just invite them into a good conversation. Hey, What are you drinking? And then see where it goes. Because if you're actually letting people in emotionally and you're relating to them and you're connecting with them, it's probably going to go somewhere if it's meant to. If she's open, she's single, well, even if she's not, you might make her day and she'll make your day because she'll give you a little validation. But if you're constantly pushing to get women, like the difference is I go up here and I'm like, hi, my name's Brian. What's yours? Oh, what are you drinking? Oh, really? That's interesting. Where are you from? Well, tell me more about that. And you feel the race on them, right? You feel the push. And then what happens is people want to go, okay, nice talking to you. And it even gets worse than that, right? It gets up here. Hi, my name's Brian. How you doing? I just want to say hi. You're not letting anybody in either case, right? And if I see somebody and I just say, hey, and I let them into my heart and I open my heart, get vulnerable. And the vulnerable doesn't mean needy. And I just relax with another human being and I say, hey, what are you drinking? And they'll answer me because I seem like a normal human being now. Oh, really? Is it? And then you can talk from that state of feeling. And then when they talk back to you, they feel seen, they feel heard because your emotions don't stop at their head. It lands here, it lands here. And they're like, there's something about this guy, I just like talking to him. So you don't have to run around talking to 50 million girls hoping one will break through. You can actually just let them in and learn to do that and just say hi to people. And, it's so much easier than we think it is. We make it out to be.
Yeah, one of the cool things about your workshops, and I know I see a lot of people doing them. I think you started it, or you're at least the first person of just the model work of having a guy stand in front of a beautiful woman because a beautiful woman triggers his tension, triggers his anxiety, and teaching him how to calm down wordlessly, or basically get into a good feeling state under the threat of sexual tension. Let's put it that way. When someone's really anxious, right? It feels like a threat. One, actually, did you come up with that? I'm curious about how that process was created.
Well, there's several things to it, and I've changed it a lot even since you were there. There's a lot of elements that have been added. I figured out subtleties of connection on so many levels over the years. Just every year that I did it, I'd see new things and see new things. The process started with me doing with Steve Pickett's soul gazing, and we would do these soul gazes, and I would sit there. Oh, that's cool. And then I saw David Data doing some of that stuff.
Wait, is that the white tantra guy, Steve Pickus? Okay, I remember his webinars from like 2003 or something. Okay, but anyway, go on.
Friends for a bit, so he would hang out. So he'd do this soul gazing with me, where your face changes shapes, and I was like, that's cool. And then I saw the David Data's work, and I was looking at that and how he was doing gazing. And then we created this little company called the Four Horsemen years ago. It was a little dating company that failed really fast with some friends, and I kind of jumped in and helped out. And I said, okay, we're going to do gazing, and based on David Data's work, and I was looking at what they were doing, and I'm like, okay, they're not doing it right. Something's not right. And I was like, okay. And then I said, well, I'm going to start doing this. And then I started to do it. And then Carl, my embodiment teacher, would gaze with me on occasion. Scientifically, they call it entrainment. Carl would just call it beaming. And I would be like, okay, we need a better term than beaming. And you would feel your heart open and you feel yourself relax when he did it. And so I said, well, I'm just going to have people start doing this. And then over the years of doing it, like teaching them, like, okay, if you just gaze long enough, like desensitization, you're going to start relaxing and she's going to feel you relaxed. And you're going to feel and there's an actual connection that happens at a certain point. And then you're able to do it faster and faster. Well, then I started to see some of these guys would get connected. The women would say they were connected, but they weren't. And they'd say, oh, I can feel him. But they wouldn't feel his power. They wouldn't feel his turn on. They wouldn't feel his confidence. They'd feel his insecurity or his neediness. And I'd be like, interesting. So now we got to look deeper inside of him until she can feel him, not just letting her in a little bit, but really letting her in and letting her feel his power, his So it just kept going deeper and deeper. And so I wouldn't say I started the idea, but I did a lot of development, thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of work with different clients over many years. I started seeing what they would call the chakra systems. I don't know if I like calling them the chakra systems because it's a little woo-woo to some people, but I started seeing how the different spots people bind, like in yoga, they bind here. And I started seeing, oh, there's binding here going on. There's binding here in the ribs going on. Oh, he's pulling back here. He's locking out his spine here, causing this total numbness in his eyes. And I start fixing this stuff. And I say, okay, we fix this. we change something here, and then we do a little embodiment work there to get some emotions out, and pop, pop, pop. The next thing you know, she's like, oh my God, I can feel him so much more. And he's like, really? And he's like, well, and they're always shocked, you know, and the woman's like, I can finally breathe now, looking in his eyes. And so that's, as I saw more and more of that, it was almost shocking. And it made me a lot happier to see it, because it just kept going deeper and deeper. That's why I say I got much deeper with it even after you came through, and saw so much more. And it got so much easier to develop the understanding and the depth. But it's all so subtle. It's like micro changes here, micro changes there, micro change here, until eventually she's like, I can feel him. I can feel his heart. I can feel his tongue. I can feel more emotions. It was amazing. I could bring in women from all these different walks of life, and they would be like, I can't feel him, I can feel him. And I'd be like, it's amazing how they work, you know. Didn't mean they were good at it either. And because sometimes you put them on the spot, and all their weird shit comes up too. So that was a lot of the work I did.
Yeah, I remember like some of your demos or some of the model work. It kind of it looked like almost like a chiropractic adjustment, or like an Alexander, like you're like hips, no, and it's like, oh well, his posture looks a lot better. Like if nothing else, you know. But yeah, I mean, it's all the body and the emotions are so linked, of course.
Yeah, a big part of it's feeling. So posture is part of it, but you can learn to get into feeling with that with a bad posture. So people can learn to do it. So I would straighten their posture just to get more energy up the spine, for example. Because if I collapse, like if I'm looking at you and I collapse my spine right now, and I do this, and it makes me feel a little more pulled back, and I can actually go really numb. But if I pop forward on this part of my spine just a little bit, and get energy to go up into my heart a little more, it makes me feel more alive. It makes me feel more energetic to people more. And then if I receive you more, it makes you feel like if I let you in more, there's a more warmth in that, right? But if I push on you more and I want something from you, hey, how you doing? You can feel the push on you. What's your name? And you can feel it's like a little part of defense will go up inside of you. And you can see that happen, the defense go up. And could you feel me shift between the receiving and the pushing when I did that?
Totally. Yeah. It's easy to miss, but since we're talking about it, you know. Yeah, it's also, you know, when someone's really feeling their body, it actually doesn't feel good to slouch. But if you're numb, you can do all sorts of weird stuff. It's like the phone neck. Like people do these weird things that would be so painful if they were feeling, but on the phone they're not. So they, you know, it's interesting. I just had a podcast guest on who I was asking him about. There's like this trope that I've noticed amongst Indian Americans, like Indian guys who grew up in America, where maybe they're very charming and like they say they speak well, they're good looking, they're handsome, they do everything right. But there's some like women kind of get repulsed and they think it's because of race or something. But I think it's more of what you're saying. I do think there's something in the Indian subculture where, I don't know if it's sexual shame or whatever, but like the feelings don't show up.
Well,
even though everything up here looks great.
Yeah, up here they're technically perfect. They're very analytical. They're how are you doing? Let me help you. But there's no animal. Like who wants to? If you want to have sex with somebody, you want to have sex with the animalistic part of the human, right? But mixed with the spiritual part. You don't want to have sex with the head part of a human, the analytical part. Let's discuss anatomy and then have sex. You know, it's just like, and if you're neutered and you have no a connection to your turn on, you know, that's huge. That's huge. And so we want to learn to really develop connection to our turn on as men, and then not hide it from the world. Creepy is when you like try to hide it, but you're turned on, or you push it on people. You don't need to push it on people. Just let it be there. Enjoy your turn on. Turn on is for so much more than just sex. It's for enjoyment. It's for pleasure. It's for whatever you're doing in your business. Put your turn on into it. Whatever you're doing in your art, put your turn on into it. You know, and channel that energy. You know, I've become a bigger believer in what do they call it? What's the term? I just said it yesterday too. I was doing a video on sexual control. You know, not no fap. Well, no fap's part of it, but you know,
semen retention.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Sex transmutation. But, yeah, whatever it is.
There's a term that's going around right now. Everybody's making YouTube videos on, and but it's basically sexual. You know, not masturbating and coming all the time anymore. Not staring at porn and keeping all that energy in your body. And learning to run it up your spine and enjoy that energy running through your body. And that used to be hella hard for me. And then one day I just kept thinking about it, and I kept thinking about it. And I was like, And I just somehow I started moving my hips more and opening my energy, and then it just started happening. I just stopped. I lost all interest in masturbation. Started running energy through my body more, and I don't remember the last time I you know, ejaculated for masturbated to ejaculate or anything like that, or looked at porn. It's just like it just stopped. And but I'll tell you, my body came fucking alive. The longer I went without doing it, the more all this energy is running up my spine, into my back, into my body, and I'm like popping up at 5:30 in the morning, going, "Okay, I'm wide awake. What do I do with this?" And I'm like, I'm used to being able to sleep in, and I can't anymore. And I got all this energy, and and more sensitivity in my heart. Oh my God, I can feel that sadness more. Or I can feel that pain more because that energy is moving through the body. It's not getting stuck in the hips. And I think it's when it gets stuck in the hips. But the shocking power we get as men when we get good at that, and begin to enjoy it, actually, is quite interesting to me. So
Yeah, and actually, I brought up the model work you did because I'm curious if there's going to be a non-dating version of that
yes,
as you move forward. Like, is there a way to do a demo of that kind of energy stuff, energetic embodiment for someone's career or sort of the other things that you might be working with clients on?
we do. We call it entrainment now, but we do a lot of embodiment can be done without models at all, just with each other. You can gaze with another man and learn stuff, just like your bro buddies. You could really take energy in it. You can gaze with other women. And so one of the things I want to put into the new events that are coming up is right now we've got we're looking at a week long kind of program where we do entrainment, embodiment, and then at the end of the week we do use models, but we want guys to bring in their wives, their girlfriends, and we want to teach. I want them to connect with other guys, and it's not just women. I want them to connect with women. So if we have to bring in some women for them to work with, because I'm guy heavy on my clients right now because I've marketed to guys for my whole life. That's fine. But if you got a girlfriend, you got a wife. I even would love married couples if they came in to rotate and work with different people so they can learn really how to let people in and connect with other human beings and learn how to create really good conversations. Sometimes the person you might have the breakthrough with is maybe not the girl you find the hottest in the room. You have the breakthrough with somebody, yeah, this person's cool. And then, wow, I really had a deep connection with them. And then you go back to the girl you find really hot, and it's so much easier. Right. This is why in my workshops, I was like, go out and talk to everybody, not just the girl you're attracted to. Practice, let people in, ground people, connect with people. So yeah, I want to have that element in there. But a big part of it is first connecting with the body. Can I feel my turn on? Can I feel my heart? Can I feel my vulnerability? And then can I do it in front of another person? So those week longs in the past, we just put you in front of the models all day long. And now we want to mix the two or have two separate events like that, but really not focus so much on picking up somebody, but really focus on receiving people and creating really powerful communication skills. And that's what I want to do. And then that'll naturally cause you to go out and meet women. Just say hi to somebody when you're doing that really well, and people will want to, oh, really cool. But when you're out there focused on trying to get the girls, you're going to be pushing on them, and they're going to want to get away from you. And then the more you push, the more you want to push, and the harder you push, and the harder you push, and it's like you try harder, until you think you burn out. And you build walls, you build resistance. That's why I think pickup
Yeah.
is bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's more about learning to relate to human beings and enjoy them with your whole body, and then the rest solves itself. You know, that's the magic of it all.
Yeah. So you've rebranded as True Courage. That's the new company you're talking about, right?
True courage, Brian. True courage. True courage is really I see it as I'm branding my name a bit, but true courage is the process. And there's a simple reason I picked that is just because courage is the first emotion where you open your heart. Courage is about being vulnerable with the heart. That's the whole definition of courage, not physical heroics. Physical heroics got branded to it later. But anger, it goes apathy, grief, fear, lust, anger, pride. Then courage is in Hawkins' scale or Lester Levinson's scale. Courage is the first emotion of CAP. That's the first emotion where you start to open your heart and go free. You got to have courage to let go of a trauma. You got to have courage to say, I can welcome this pain so I can look at it and let it go. If you do it from anger or wanting, and that's the biggest mistake as I see guys make, is they're trying to clean up their garbage from wanting. Their heart's closed. It's just want. And it just actually puts them into frustration and spins, and they're not really letting go. They're not learning how to let go. So courage is the gateway to acceptance, peace, or neutrality, willingness, love, all the higher emotions. It's the gateway drug. And courage is a form of love when it's done with an open heart for real. If your heart's not open, it's not really courage. So just wanted to share that.
Cool. Yeah, so you're still running workshops in the same fashion. I guess they're co-ed now.
Yeah, that we're doing our first workshop. I've only been taking a limited number of online clients. I do longer term programs where I work with them, teaching embodiment long term online. Now we're starting to put out some events. We have one event scheduled for sometime later this year. What I'm looking at, and then we'll probably have a few events next year. I'm in no hurry. Again, I'm still looking for that balance of what I want to create with my life, quality wise. But that's basically what I'm creating. Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, I look forward to seeing what that looks like, and hopefully hanging out with you in person. I don't know where you'll be or where I'll be, but let me know. Maybe I'll meet you up in an RV somewhere.
Definitely want to do that. Definitely want to do that. And that would be fun to see the RV. Do a little
Yeah,
van life. Right?
yeah,
So go
for
to
sure.
wherever and stuff. And I'll tell you what, if your clients want, I'd be glad to give them. I have a energetic embodiment. It's an old recording I did. I did it at a workshop. There's clunky noises in the background. It was just what we call the full body scan meditation. If they would like a copy of that, I would love to give it to them. I'll create a special link for them, have it put up. I don't know when this is going up live, so give me a,
Sure.
give me a little time to get the link so I can capture it and send them all a copy of that. I'm also thinking about offering a few free webinars to teach more about if somebody wants to learn more about energetic embodiment. And they go there and they will send up some information on a free webinar that I'll probably do next month. Maybe I'll do a few of those. And I'll just say truecourage.io/Ruwando is what I'll do. Truecourage.io/RUWANDO. Is that cool? Did I put that in there?
Yeah, yeah, that works.
And that'll and yeah, and I'll have my guy put that up in the next few days, and so before you put this out, and then everybody can go there and do that.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Cool, man. Well, thanks so much for making the time. It's great to see you. Uh, yeah, yeah. We'll catch up soon.
I look forward to it, man.